Remember how I said that Ilhan Omar, who was a Justice Democrat who was voted in, she was somebody who's going to end up pushing the debate and changing the Overton window in terms of the Israel-Palestine issue, simply due to the fact that she is, I guess openly now supportive of BDS, boycott, divest, sanction, and she is somebody who is, pro-Palestine, and it's going to change the Overton window, and I am here for it. So she got into some controversy today, and it is quite a ridiculous one, but we are going to break this down. So here's what happened. So Glenn Greenwald tweeted out this tweet saying, GOP leader Kevin McCarthy threatens punishment for Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib over their criticisms of Israel. It's stunning how much time U.S. political leaders spend defending a foreign nation, even if it means attacking free speech rights of Americans. And so this has to do with the anti-BDS bill that was going through the Senate, and actually got passed through the Senate, where a bunch of Democrats voted for it. And that is a bill where basically you have to, on federal contracts, you have to sign that you won't do business with businesses that are boycotting Israel, which is essentially a political statement, because that is definitely a violation of your free speech. If you want to make a political statement by, boycotting Israel, you have the freedom of speech to do that. And that's something that Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson, all those guys should be out there talking about, but they're not. So she actually responded to this tweet with the quote retweet saying, "It's all about the Benjamins, baby." Now, of course, I guess that's a song lyric. I don't know which song that is. I think someone was saying it's a P. Diddy song. I don't know. But Benjamin's referring to $100 bills with, Ben Franklin on it. So this caused a lot of controversy because she's, I guess, not making it clear what she meant. And it seems like an anti-Semitic statement because, there's kind of weird ties there. And, someone responded saying, "Would love to know who Ilhan Omar thinks is paying American politicians to be pro-Israel. Though I think I can guess. Bad form, Congresswoman. That's the second anti-Semitic trope you've tweeted." So people are trying to smear her as this anti-Semite. That's what they're attempting to do. And she straight up responded saying AIPAC, because AIPAC is a massive Israeli lobbying group that exists in the United States that has a shit ton of power. Okay, we're talking a lot of power. This lobbying group is really strong. I don't know the strength of it. I mean, we're talking strength in the issue of Israel-Palestine. It's massive. We saw Kamala Harris give a speech there, giving a blowjob to Israel when she gave her speech to AIPAC, and just it's a really, really powerful group, and I'm going to explain more about that. Now, the Israeli lobby does end up donating a shit ton of money into election cycles for very obvious reasons. There's a pro-Israel lobby that has donated millions of dollars, and you can look those numbers up on Open Secrets and everything like that. But I have a quote to read you, and this comes from when I talked about how George H.W. Bush was the last president of the United States to truly stand up to Israel and, really, say, "Hey, motherfucker," like he said, "If you don't freeze your illegal settlements, we will refuse to give you more loan guarantees." He put his foot down, said, "Hey, if you don't stop your illegal settlements, if you don't freeze them, we are going to refuse loan guarantees." And here's what he said. This is a very interesting quote. He said, "There are 1,000 lobbyists up on the Hill today lobbying Congress for loan guarantees for Israel, and I'm one lonely little guy down here asking Congress to delay its consideration of loan guarantees for 120 days. So think about this, man. First of all, George H.W. Bush, Republican president, not a Democrat, white dude. He's not, Middle Eastern or anything like that. So all of that shit just gets thrown to the side. He's not a Democrat. He's not a brown dude. He's white. Okay, so don't hit me with any of that bullshit because it doesn't make sense. But the thing here is, if a president of the United States is, able to be felt as this little guy, what does that tell you about the power of AIPAC and their lobbying group? That tells you a lot, dude. And I mean, it's true. The lobbying that goes on in the United States, that's the reason why, the United States has such a strong relationship with Israel in terms of how our Congress votes and how they, whether or not they support Israel or whether or not they don't. Li Fang also posted this, quote, a long form quote that I'm going to read to you guys. It says, former Congressman Brian Baird on how AIPAC mobilizes campaign money for its supporters and against critics of its agenda. And I'm going to read this to you guys. It says, AIPAC is on your side. You can do that. They come to you and say, we'd be happy to host $10,000 fundraisers for you and let us help write your annual letter. And please come to this multi-thousand person dinner. Any member of Congress knows that AIPAC is associated indirectly with significant amounts of campaign spending if you're with them, and significant amounts against you if you're not with them. For Baird, AIPAC connected money amounted to about $200,000 in each of his races, and that's $200,000 going your way versus the other way, a $400,000 swing. So what you're talking about is, dude, it's a lobbying group. You're talking about doing fundraisers, big ass donations from certain people. This is a serious thing. And this, this isn't just AIPAC. I mean, obviously, and this is the thing about all these lobbying groups. So like the NRA, for example, there's, wasn't it Trump who said that, he's scared of the NRA? He was referring to one of the representatives. It's because these lobbying groups end up determining whether or not these candidates end up winning their elections. And so after HW did that, I believe that he had the Jewish vote lessened for him, and it went even more towards Bill Clinton. I believe Bill Clinton had done the opposite of what HW did, which is, bad, obviously, because freezing your illegal settlements until or refusing to give you loan guarantees until you freeze your illegal settlements is a very good thing that he did. So you're talking about this idea, and it seems like there's all these liberals on Twitter who are like, whoa, anti-Semite. And it's like, this is very well documented. AIPAC is not something that's, it's not anti-Semitic to call out, first of all, not anti-Semitic to critique Israel and to criticize Israel. People need to stop with that BS, because it's simply not true. The idea that it's anti-Semitic to criticize Israel doesn't make any sense. And despite that being such a commonsensical thing, right? Such a simple truism, essentially, you have no idea how much that is used when you are online. And this is the problem that I have with this issue that we're talking about, because you're talking about conflation of anti-Semitism with critique of Israel, which doesn't make any sense. And then you've got accusations of usage of anti-Semitic tropes when you're simply stating facts and you're saying, hey, AIPAC has insane amounts of influence on the issue of Israel-Palestine. That's the whole point of it. And they, some people are trying to say that, that's not the reason why why AIPAC does what they do. They just give them money just because, which is, it's unbelievably ridiculous. They obviously give them money for, favors. They're giving them money because they want to influence them to further support Israel and to, and to up Israel's cause and to advance Israel's cause in terms of its relations with the United States of America. And so they definitely have a massive lobby in the United States that ends up controlling a lot, because if you're a congressional member and this congressman just broke it down, Brian Baird, he just broke it down. He says it's a $400K swing in terms of fundraising, because either I could get $200K or my opponent will get $200. It's a $400K swing. So that's it ends up affecting you a lot. And when you're talking about like these anti-Semite smears as well, I mean, those kinds of smears really damage someone's reputation, and that's what they go for. And so now there are threats against both Ilhan and Rashida for being censored. What that basically means is Congress comes together and says, we are condemning what you did. We're condemning what you said. You can expel them. It's not going to expel them. It's going to say, we condemn what you said. And I believe they're threatening to take them off of their committee assignments, which is what I believe they did to Steve King. So there are now people on the right, on the Republican side, who have not, who've barely spoken about Steve King and not, expelled him, right? I don't even remember them censoring him. So You're talking about those people having the gall to even attempt to act as if they really care about something like this. And of course, you have people like Ben Shapiro spamming the anti-Semite button because they don't have any actual arguments, and he's just bullshitting because that's what he does. And we've seen him do that, with people like Patton Oswalt, where he, says that he's comparing him to Irving Kristol because he's Jewish when he was doing it because they're both neocons. This guy is really ridiculous. I mean, it's really insane. I couldn't believe this, to be honest, but this is something that, it's something that's going to have to happen. This kind of a debate is going to have to happen, and I'm glad it's happening now because it's time for this to happen, and we need to shift this. And what I'm glad to see is, while there are a lot of cancerous, tweets sent out on Twitter about this and a lot of shitty, dumb takes, there are a good amount of redeemable ones, which I'm very happy about, including a lot of liberals and acknowledging that some even people being like, oh, I'm Jewish, I don't like AIPAC, and I hate Benjamin Netanyahu. That's something that everyone should be able to come together on, by the way. Benjamin Netanyahu sucks. Not only did, his 2014 Gaza raid, kill, I believe, 90% civilians, according to the UN, but he's literally corrupt. Like textbook corruption we're talking about here. The Israeli police, this is not the UN, this is not some other country, it's not like, I don't know, some, anti-Israel nation, Iran came up with their investigation and said, oh, he's corrupt. No, we're talking about Israeli police recommending 3 times charges against him for textbook corruption. I mean, they rave about this democracy that they have when they're keeping out Palestinians from having the right to return on the grounds that we're going to become a minority in our own country. It's a really great democracy, by the way. Keeping people out, specifically based on their race. Real great democracy. One of the great democratic principles. And this guy gave tax breaks to news websites and allowed mergers in exchange for good coverage. So they would take down negative coverage of Benjamin Netanyahu, and they would be incentivized to put up good ones. You're talking about, that's your democracy that you're ranting and raving about? How is that good? How is that something to be proud of? That's a really, really shitty democracy that anybody who, really knows anything about democracy would condemn very easily and very basic.